Before we dive into today's episode, we want to introduce you to a podcast that we think you're going to love. It's called Talking to Teens with Andy Earl. If you're enjoying our conversations about relationships and personal growth, Talking to Teens is like the parenting version. It's insightful, thought-provoking, and full of real, actionable advice. I have enjoyed listening to the episodes that I have. It's been the last week, that I've been listening to several episodes, and I really have enjoyed it. I thought this is good, actionable advice. So what I also have loved is that Andy brings in top experts in psychology, communication, adolescent development to help parents navigate the terrain of raising teens through all of our stages of development that we go through when we are teenagers. But it wasn't heavy or confusing. I really felt like the information was very relatable and practical. And so I think all of us at some point struggle to relate to our teens, connecting with them, having hard conversations, or just understanding what's really going on for them. So I think that this is a great podcast that is worth spending your time. They're also, the ones I've listened to anyway, have been shorter, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And so I would say it is worth the time to check out Talking to Teens with Andy Earl on wherever you listen to podcasts. Okay, back to our show.
My Inner Knowing, empowering you to find your compass for the journey. We are dedicated to supporting you to rediscover and trust your natural ability to navigate life each day by sharing insight and experience through the lens of two professional communicators and their guests. We intend to prompt internal inquiry that supports all those willing to explore a unique path. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
Tell me how good you are.
Well, babe. That good.
That good. Yay.
You're still with me.
I am. Yeah.
Playfulness.
Yeah. Playfulness.
I had work out of town and took an extra couple of days to take care of myself, and it was good.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to get back in swing, especially with time change. But
Yeah.
anyway, I feel pretty good. And it's a beautiful, sunny spring day. I just saw Robin as I was walking over. So, yay.
Yay.
And I made progress on a project that we started at your house before Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Bathroom remodel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that felt really good.
Yeah.
It's like heart language, right? What do they call it? Love language.
Acts of service.
Yeah. Acts of service.
Yeah.
So you were cooking me meals for the week, and I was fixing bathroom stuff.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah. I feel good about that. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I grouted my first floor. I felt good about that.
Oh, that's right. You did. Sorry. Well, I grouted a floor, right?
No,
I wasn't there when you did it, though.
Yeah, no, what I was thinking about was just that sense of accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
Of doing something I hadn't done before. And also like, I am sure that people that do this regularly have been much more efficient.
Well, you know how long it took me to get the drywall patch in behind the light fixture. Okay, it's just because, when we took the old light fixture off, somebody, instead of having the wire hooked to a box, it was just threaded behind drywall and stuck through a hole.
Right. It wasn't secure.
Yeah, and they had just put a metal plate with a bunch of drywall screws in it that was hanging there. I can't believe the light fixture wasn't just. But anyway, one of those little surprises, and we wondered why the guys who put in the shower didn't install the light, and now I know.
Now we know
because
why.
they pulled that and they're like, that'll take days.
Right.
And it did.
And it did. But it's done.
It's
Yeah.
done, and it's going to look great. Last bit of sanding, and we're off to the races. But I digress, because we have things to talk about.
We do. We do. So, parenting and our relationships with our children.
Just a little topic.
Yeah, a little topic that could have, 632 episodes. And we will be doing more topics around it. We will be doing more topics around it.
Yeah.
Because a few months ago, we put a question out there for people. If there was, what is the conversation? I don't remember exactly, but you wish a conversation that you wish your parents had had with you.
Yes.
Right. And we got a lot of feedback online, direct messaging, text messages. It was a lot.
Yeah, people it was a lot.
It was a lot. Ooh. Yeah. And so we will be diving into that. We'll start diving into those different topics around parenting. And again, not just young children, but all ages of children, and really mostly adult children.
Yeah, way out of the nest.
Right. Way out of the nest.
Like people in their 50s.
Right. 60s.
Yeah.
70s, I think, too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So this is more in general conversation about parenting, including young children and overcoming parenting stress. So if you think back to yourself as a young parent, can you kind of walk us through whether the tools that you tried to implement when you were young were effective or not, or healthy or not? What do you feel like were the things that you did to try to help yourself with the stress of parenting over the years?
Oh, for when she was young?
Yeah, all the way through. Like, what did you do when she was young? And just what did you notice about the best you did to care for yourself around the stress of parenting?
Honestly, I'm at a loss for what I did to take care of myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. You got big eyes.
No, well, I'm not I'm just as shocking, but I'm not the only person. I was working crazy hours, but I liked getting up when she needed things in the night or was crying. I was the comforter and the burping back patter and, wake up Libby was just an awesome baby, not colicky or anything, but I still had to get up, Typically she might, after the first month or so, she'd sleep almost through the night, but she'd wake up early because she was like an 8:30 girl, always.
Yeah.
Maybe 8. So she'd be ready to go at 4:30 or so.
Yeah.
But anyway, I tried just doing fun activities with her. That was kind of my thing because I worked so hard.
Yeah.
But when she got to school age and she would come home from school, she and I would immediately, because I worked for myself by then, take off and go do things together. Like go to the park or go see the donkeys at the little zoo they had. Those sorts of things. Walk the dog, fly kites. I'm talking about activities, not things I did to take care of myself, because I just didn't do a very good job of it.
Yeah.
Whether it was work or her.
Yeah. So
if we'd had more than one, who knows what would have happened. I'm guessing I would have found a way. I wouldn't have had a choice then, but to take better care of myself from a parenting stress standpoint.
Or not.
Or not. I could have just melted down. I do remember learning to pause.
Okay.
And if it was, whatever it might be. If she was having a bad day and kicking and screaming and all that, I'd take her to her room and say, whether that was right or wrong as a parent, she'd go into her room and I would like close the door, but I'd be standing right outside, because it's painful when your child is that upset, and
Painful
you're
for
getting
you.
upset, you put them in there. Maybe I was a little gruff. I don't remember, and then I would stand out in the hallway, and we had this teeny little house. So, and it was just take a breath, try to calm. I had no idea about grounding at that point or meditation or anything, but, and then it would be painful.
Yeah.
To listen and not go in and try to fix.
So what did you do? I'm not, again, healthy or unhealthy.
Yeah.
When it was painful, what did you do to try to, I don't know, be okay?
I don't know. I'm not being very helpful to people who are watching. I think I just struggled through it.
I don't know that that's true, babe, that you're not being helpful.
I would wait until she, calmed down, and then I would typically go in and pick her up and hold her, and we'd talk about it. Doing the best that I knew how to do as far as talking about it. But, honey, are you calm now? And then whatever the issue that brought it on might have been, or nothing at all. Sometimes kids just go crazy because they're tired or whatever it might be. They don't have the means to share it all with you.
Yeah. Well, what I feel like really what you're indicating, and you've already said it clearly, which is it wasn't something you thought about.
No.
It wasn't something you were seeking tools around. You were surviving.
Yeah, there just wasn't any support. It's nothing that I could talk with my dad about. I'm sure he very rarely, if ever, came and did anything with us like that.
Yeah.
Or even really thought about it much, as long as he couldn't hear us.
Sure.
I remember, me and my wife we tried to do, and it just wasn't consistent enough, just parents' night out, date night. And I'm sure we did it for a while, but not like we should have.
Not like what might have been helpful.
To have a break with somebody that we, knew she'd be safe with, and just have a break from that being the sole focus of everything we were doing until after 8:30 at night.
Yeah.
And then there just weren't enough hours in the day.
Yeah. So if you go back to what?
Just my schedule, it wasn't at first, but there was this huge case I'd been working on for like 4 years that was heated up, and it was insane. But my schedule was to get to work at 7, and I would work until I think 6. I'd come home for maybe an hour to 2 hours. Yeah. Be back at work by 8. Work till midnight. Come back again. And so it's painful to remember that time, because she was it was the best part of my day was walking in the front door, because she, just little, she'd be, plugging in there ready to see me, and it's dad, and she'd run, mom, dad's home. It was the greatest ever, and we'd turn on Tom Petty and dance around the living room, that sort of stuff, because we had a big mirrored credenza or whatever. In there, and she loved to, have me swing her in close while we were dancing and we'd laugh. I mean, there was lots of sweet little moments, but I was gone a lot.
Yeah.
And it got so bad that she called me bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be hard.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's, and I was a young man. And so 27, 28, 29, you don't recognize what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then when somebody you love that much, she didn't have a lot of words, but she would hear bye-bye from me. That was how she was identifying me.
Yeah.
And there was, it was heartbreaking, and it still is.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think that there was any way out.
Yeah.
I was trying to provide for the family, talk about that provider role thing, and do it all. And I mean, not doing a very great job of any of it, apparently. I learned a lot about being a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So 30 years later, that's paying off now, but it sure was painful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why don't we turn it to you, and maybe you learned a lot of things along the way and were able to do it better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, were there ways that you took care of yourself? And you had 4.
I don't want to just skip over.
I'm not done yet.
Well,
what?
What you were just saying about I learned to be a good lawyer, right? You studied for that. You practiced over and over and over, right?
I did.
And to me, whatever it is that we're going to do in life requires practice, experimentation, over and over and over, whether it is being a lawyer, parenting, eating healthy. I mean, it doesn't matter. We want it often to be something that should come easy to us or be natural, whether it's based off our, the stories we were told about ourselves growing up or our intelligence or education. And it's just not that simple. And so for me, it's also a recognition for you that being a really good attorney is because of the amount of time that you spent. But we're not taught, encouraged, or explained to that parenting isn't different. And that for some reason, just being a parent should teach us. Like it'll just come, right? I mean, could you imagine if you had just walked into a courtroom with no education, no training, and then just started trying to practice law?
Yeah. That's
ridiculous, right? But we expect that around parenting.
Sure.
You have a child, you're a parent. And you should just figure it out.
It's crazy to me. We just didn't get a lot of, our parents didn't, and this is my experience. I don't know what my wife's experience was, but I don't think we got a lot of help.
Yeah.
And I don't mean them coming to take care of things. I just mean advice.
Sure.
How do you do this? But I'm guessing that's not uncommon because they didn't know, other than, the old school way that I was brought up.
Sure. I remember, and this wasn't parenting, but it was marriage. Not too long after I got married, and I was 21 when I got married, I remember that we got into a fight about something. I could not tell you what it was about. And I remember leaving because I did not know what was going on. I did not know what to do. I did not understand. And I went home and I was telling my parents, and they were like, not with any attitude or anger, but it was very matter of fact. You're married now. Figure it out.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Like somehow that made sense.
It's like being taught how to swim by somebody throwing you in the freaking pool. Got it. Thanks.
Really what happened was, like my parents had this expectation. They told me this is the expectation. And I was like, well, okay, then I guess that's what I have to do. I just have to figure it out. And so, for me, it didn't stop there. But I do remember years later thinking my parents didn't know what to tell me. That I don't know that it was something they ever figured out.
Yeah.
Right. And so, so for me, at some point along the way, I recognized that asking people questions, volunteering at the, church nursery, reading books, that they were helpful to me. Someone, I think, when I was pregnant with my oldest, I'm pretty sure, gave me a book called What to Expect When You're Expecting.
Yeah, I remember that book.
Yeah. And I remember reading it. I mean, to me, it was just like so much information I didn't know. It was amazing. And that really started, my curiosity. But I don't think I did anything around the stress of parenting for a long time because it was never modeled to me, for sure. And yes, we did just pause the podcast for a moment so that I could shut the blind, which we really were enjoying having open because it's 70 degrees outside today. But we recognized that the camera autofocus was struggling a bit. So anyway, so trying to remember to pick up where I was talking about modeling.
You didn't have anybody modeling for you.
Right. I didn't have anybody modeling. Being a parent intentionally. I did not have that for sure.
Right.
And it was really just demonstrated by action. It wasn't right. Like no one was explaining to me how to take care of myself or that I needed to take care of myself. It was just an expectation. So I feel like the majority of it was just surviving. I don't really feel like I knew anything about overcoming stress until I really started working on myself.
Yeah.
And going to therapy, having people suggest different things. I didn't ever think I could take a break. I remember when I started taking breaks, like going on retreat, which is really what I did. I was always like, if I'm going to be away, it has to have a purpose. It wasn't. I think I once took a break to take care of myself. I'm trying to remember how old I was. I think 20 years ago, I took a trip by myself. I had never taken a trip by myself. I just know that I needed to get away. But I didn't think about it as self-care. I thought about it as survival. And so I didn't know how to do it on the daily. And while I think that that was really helpful in me learning that I needed to have breaks, I still don't. I think it took years for me to really understand the importance of stepping away. So whether as a parent or, just growing, for me, having a break, became, I don't know, more intentional. And so when I think about overcoming stress as a parent now, it has been a lot of reading, a lot of conversation, a lot of observation. Like I'm always watching, other people parent, and I am aware that I'm assessing, is that something that I could use with my kids? If I did, how would I use that? What might the response be? That would not work with one of my kids, so a lot of observation. I think I learned a lot too because I was so curious from movies and TV shows that I watched. Like I didn't always just assume that it was good. I would be like, oh, that wasn't a very good example. Or I don't think I'd like that as a child. And so for me, it was just a lot of evaluation. And man, I can look back so easy and think about the times that I didn't know how to regulate myself very well. That I, instead of releasing my energy in other ways, I took it out on my kids. The helplessness piece. I mean, there were some things that really didn't bother me, that, like if something got broken or, marked on or whatever, like that stuff wasn't like a trigger for me. Really, my stuff was more like danger or being someplace on time. Those really were the things that I struggled with. And so it was learning, like having the awareness that those were my triggers, I think was like first. Like I had to recognize that there were things that made me reactive because there were plenty of things that didn't make me reactive. And then how do I better care for myself once I had that awareness? And so some of the overcoming stress was preparing the night before. Instead of asking Cameron what he wanted to wear in the morning, because putting it out for him was not a solution.
He liked his duds, didn't he?
He did. He did. He did.
I've seen the pictures, yeah.
And all of my kids are strong-willed, every one of them. I didn't get one, I got 4, which was fine. I was too. So I get it and I respected it, and I never wanted to break my kids' spirit. So for Cameron, it would be asking him the night before, what do you want to wear tomorrow? And Cameron wasn't someone that changed his mind 100 times. He was pretty clear. And so it was really just like learning who my child was that I feel like was the most helpful thing for me in overcoming stress as a parent.
Sure.
It wasn't that I needed to learn this skill and that was going to work for all 4 of my kids. Not true. But if I could really pay attention to who my child was and understand what was important to them as best I could, for me, then I could figure out the ways to support them best for their success. It doesn't mean it worked all the time, but it really was learning who each one of them was that was most helpful for me in not feeling so stressed as a parent. And I don't think I'm any different now with them, even though they range 17 to 30. I really engage with them in ways that I think speak to them the best. Again, not always what they need, but I'm always continuing to learn who they are. Yeah. What are you thinking?
That is, it's nice to move into that territory. That if, I love my daughter, and there were many things I did as a father that were great. She has good memories of of it. But I have memories probably that she doesn't have
Yeah.
or they haven't come up yet. And so just the thought of, and it's really great advice, if you are looking at your child as a human being with their own personality,
Yeah.
whose brain is not fully developed and won't be
Right.
until they're in their mid-20s or older. And make it part of your role as a parent to learn who they are. What do you need? Instead of this is how it's going to be. Because that's how I was raised by my mom anyway. My dad was, I love my dad, but he was an absentee.
Yeah.
But my mom was a disciplinarian, and I didn't do the same things with Libby that my mom did.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't. I mean, I'm sure there were a couple of times, but typically didn't freak out, lose my temper. But I did require behavior to be the way I wanted it. And I would give her 3 chances. And I would count them out. She's strong enough that we'd get to 3, and then she'd have to go to her room. I did take her there. And if I could go back to learn more about who she was and what do you need and, what's happening as best you can, because they can't always express it.
No. Nor can we as adults.
And so it's like this, finding this balance between helping them chart a course, right? And stifling their spirit. And luckily, Libby is so strong that I didn't stifle her sweet spirit.
Yeah.
And there are other things that I taught her through that process that are really good because she's a good person. She's a hard worker.
Right.
But I would definitely take your advice, and it would have made things so much easier. I also think, what comes to mind is that if you're doing it that way, it needs to be a team effort between the parents, if there's more than one parent in the household.
Yeah.
When you get that, what are you thinking when I say it?
Yeah. I think it's helpful if we can see the experience of parenting, like everything else, as an experiment. And that if we're both working on the experiment, right, we're much more likely to be successful, right? Because we have different perspectives and different experiences, and we can offer so much more to our children if it's a team effort. I mean, one of the things that I talk to parents about is your child being able to hold multiple perspectives and that be good and safe is one of the biggest gifts that you can give them. And so I'll give this example of, like, let's say that the parents are outside with one or more of their children, and they're laying in the grass and they're looking up at the clouds and they're playing the cloud game or whatever you call it. And one of the parents says, "Oh, look, there's a turtle." The other parent can respond in various ways, but the ones that come to mind and the ones I use it as an example are, the other parent could say, "That's not a turtle, that's a dragon," which is very different than saying, "Oh, I can't see a turtle, but I can see a dragon."
Right.
Very different lessons that you're teaching your children. And so that's what comes to mind when you talk about it being a team effort.
Yeah.
Not only can we offer our children multiple perspectives and that it's okay to have multiple perspectives, but also that our child has this, the benefit really of having 2 parents who have lived their experiences, who have chosen to collaborate on this experiment of parenting.
Yeah. I think the collaborate word is a really important one. And I believe 100% about them, teaching multiple perspectives, and that it shouldn't be, well, this is how we handle every situation, because it's not going to work anyway.
Right.
But you have to be on the same team, right? In other words, you have a role and I have a role, but we're both heading in the same direction to that end of the field for the touchdown, or however you want to, say it. But I think it can happen, and I believe that this happened for me, is that, there were very different views
Yeah.
and no communication to come to, some common ground as parents.
Yeah.
So it was and it in part destroyed the relationship between me and my wife.
Yeah. I think that happens a lot, babe.
We just never could. We weren't mature enough to communicate well and to respect each other. Whew. And that just, it's, talk about not modeling well for your child.
Sure. Whew. We've talked about this a little bit. We did in the Essential Skills course. We're raised in our family. And some people find out through their friendships that their family isn't like other families. But sometimes we don't really understand that. And so we can come into marriage with, my upbringing was fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. And then we have kids and it's like, well, I'm successful. I went to college, whatever, like story we can tell ourselves, right?
Right.
And so how I was raised is the way I should raise my kids. And so we can have really strong opinions about parenting based off our family.
Right.
Right? Like it or the opposite of what we went through.
Right.
But very strong opinions about what is right and what is wrong in raising our kids. It is an area I don't think we're very curious about. And I don't think we often take the children into consideration. For me, when I think about like my oldest son, he definitely got the most of my non-intentional parenting.
Right.
Like in my family, probably because there were 8 kids. I don't know if it would have been different if there was 3 or 4, but I don't have a lot of recollection of like structure around studying.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, whatever. And so when I realized that Christopher was really smart, I was like, well, I don't really need to do anything because he's really smart. Come to find out later, not only was that not true, it was something that really caused him a significant amount of distress because I did not reinforce any type of structure around studying because I grew up in a house with no reinforcement around studying. I think there was an expectation relatively of grades, but it wasn't like heavy. And so it wasn't something that I thought about or understood or respected until truthfully he got into high school and studying was something he just didn't know how to do.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, so that recognition took a while for me. I think my second child, he, I don't know, had a more natural inclination of studying. Like he just always is seeking out multiple perspectives and, teaching himself. And I think my oldest son, that came more later, learning to teach himself. And then my younger kids definitely are more effective at that. But I'm still not great. Their dad does much better in regards to that.
I think we can complement each other's strengths too, right?
Right. And I was fine. I didn't challenge that.
Right.
I just didn't witness it, didn't experience it, didn't understand it. And so that was something that I did start learning in my second marriage was, there are skills he has I do not have. Mm-hmm. But that required me to have an awareness of myself, right?
Yeah.
Not to say, I turned out fine. Why are you making them study, right? that was not the attitude that I took.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad. I think, babe, that there's that. And if you want to take, really good pieces of advice, watch your child, get to know
Yes.
what's best for them. How do they respond to structured, events, structured studying time,
Right.
that sort of thing, and feel your way through that. But with the recognition, I'm learning what works for you,
Right.
not my way,
Right.
me.
Right.
And the other is with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a partner in the parenting relationship, and I know I'm reiterating, but it's really that piece. It hurts my heart to even talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just so important that there be communication about it, and mutual effort, and not at odds with, well, that's the wrong thing to do. But what's funny is I remember very vividly that my friend had a child way before I did, right? And so he's early in the parenting process, and I didn't have kids.
Yeah.
And so he would talk to me about it. And he had a disagreement with his wife about some aspect of what she was doing as a mother. And he just said she tore into him, like pulling back a bloody stump. And it taught him not to interfere with her parenting,
Right.
because she was the mother. And,
Right.
it's that's rough. And I think that if you want to create more parenting stress between the partners, then go continue down that type of road versus mutual respect, some attempts to clear the air. And I guess sometimes there's not going to be agreement.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes there's not going to be agreement.
So what do parents do when there's just this diametrically opposed issue?
Oh, kind of like anything else, right? That to me is an indication of I am unwilling to change my story.
Yeah.
Right. I have attached my identity to whatever that belief is, right? And I cannot consider another option. Yeah. And that's really about our identity as a parent.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I'm working with a parent who is really struggling, I'll say, you have a choice to make. What's most important to you? Being right or having a relationship with your child?
Yeah.
Because you're thinking about this in the short term.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the long term too.
Right.
What are you going to choose? What is most important to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can have beliefs so attached to our identity. If I don't do it this way, then I'm a bad parent. If I don't do it this way, then I have failed. If I don't. So it's not about the child.
Right.
It's really about my story of who I am as a parent.
Yeah.
That's not being a parent.
But it's the most of us got.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So educating yourself constantly.
Sure.
Observation, being in conversation, go to therapy. There's so many different resources out there that are available.
Right.
Oh my gosh, different podcasts, the podcast that we talked about at the beginning of this episode, the Talking to Teens. And that was really helpful. Andy actually found us, and I don't know all the details, but he reached out, having heard some of our podcast, and realized that what he's talking to about teens is similarly to how we talk about things, but ours is a more general, topic. And so, the reason that we, shared Andy's podcast with everybody is because we feel like that level of curiosity. I mean, I don't know how many podcast episodes he's had, but like 400 with all these different authors and psychologists and speakers. And I mean, it's just like, just expose yourself, listen. What sounds like my child? What could I try? Right? If we can really see, my opinion about this, but life as an experiment and everything in life is an experiment, as opposed to, I should know the answer or the result, with no data, but I should know. I think that that's really important. And then doing our work, right?
That's the starting point, isn't it? If you want to be the best.
Yeah. Breathing, learning to breathe, learning to pause.
Recognizing triggers.
Recognizing triggers, taking care of ourselves, taking a break. I mean, I know I started talking about this earlier. It was so much effort for me to step away from the role as mother for a few days at a time to learn more about who I was. The amount of time and energy, organizing this and arranging that and making sure every single thing was covered. Right. But I believe that if I had all 4 of my children in here and asked them, do you think that time away that I had to work on myself and to learn, was that worth it for you? I can't imagine any one of them would be like, absolutely not. I think they'd be like, thank God. Yeah, because they matured in that time too, right? Sure. They learned for a few days at a time, how to be more independent. Yeah. They're all very self-sufficient. They all can cook and bake. They all can fix things and take care of things. And, they all can. Yeah. And if I had never stepped away, not even thinking about that long term, because I wasn't thinking about that long term. I just know that I needed, as a parent, to be okay. I had to learn to step away. Right. And grow and give myself a break. I don't know that they would have developed those skills quite as well.
Yeah. That process that you're talking about of how doing all the other things to be able to step away, I think is another important point. Yeah. How important is it for, if you have a co-parent, for them to control the stress of parenting, be able to step into those roles?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think so much of it depends on the age of the kids and the needs of the kids. I mean, sure. Like my kids did not have serious health issues, right? I mean, but initially, I didn't even feel like I could ask. Yeah. I felt like it was an inconvenience. And so the people that I asked were my sisters and my mom. Yeah. And they did. They were so great. And over time, it became not something I had to spend so much time doing, or didn't even think about having to do. But yeah, it wasn't something that I considered asking for help. I think my partner had an expectation that I would take care of arranging all of it. It wasn't something that he wasn't involved enough in the day-to-day that he could have even have done it without my very detailed email instructions that I sent out.
I wish we had one of those emails right now to look at who that was.
That would have been...
Especially when you were first doing it, right? Can you imagine what you wrote?
I don't even want to think about how much detail I put in
my goodness.
to things. But again, a recognition over time that those emails with that kind of detail were not needed by me or him or them, you know. Yeah. That it did evolve. Like people adapted to it, to the process of it. Yeah. And I remember, I think I said this on another episode, the first time I went on retreat, my oldest son was like, where are you going? And I said, on retreat. And he's like, why? And I said, because I'm trying to be the best mom that I can be. And I said, is there anything that I could work on while I'm gone? And he said, if they could teach you how to play video games, that'd be great, because you are terrible. And
Yes.
I could not play Mario Brothers for anything. I died all the time.
That's hilarious.
And that's what was important, to him, and of course I just laughed and said, I'll keep working on that. I don't think I'm any better today, 30 or 25 years later.
Yeah.
But I think we have to be curious enough to find our way. Like, I don't think there is one way for us to work on the stress of being a parent. We all have such different circumstances. Whatever the things might be that can get in our way of being present with our kids and knowing who our kids are. Again, I think if we can choose to see parenting like anything else as an experiment, that I'm just learning in this process, not holding ourselves to some impossible standard, but also not saying, fuck it, they'll be fine. I don't think that's helpful either. So
that's my dad.
I know what happened.
Or he wasn't even thinking about it. He says, see ya.
Yeah, I don't know.
Go away.
Right. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's not out of really pain. It just is. It's humorous at this end of the spectrum.
But not when you were younger.
Oh, no. It was very traumatic. But anyway.
Right.
Yeah. I keep going back to the couples aspect of this thing or partners aspect. And I think, going back in time, we were doing this approximately the same time period, but I'd never even heard about retreat.
Yeah.
The most I'd ever heard of was the Trial Lawyers College, which would have been a really good thing if I'd done it, but that would have been 3 weeks. We didn't take separate time.
Yeah.
But I think supporting one another, recognizing that just an afternoon of shopping or whatever doesn't cut the mustard.
No, not for long-term gain.
And it precludes the potential of 2 things. One, the parent who's leaving, trusting the other parent will do it well enough. 2, the parent who is staying, gaining the confidence, because you will be able to do it, to take care of things appropriately, and not being criticized because you didn't do it the way the other parent would have done it when they get back from their retreat or their trip or whatever it is. But a few days, I think really supportive by the parent who's staying, and good in so many ways, but recognizing, hey, a few days would be really, really good at the appropriate age.
Right. Yeah. And whatever that might be. Again, everybody's situation is so different.
Well, yeah, health conditions too.
Yeah, a lot of things to take into account. Yeah, for sure. I mean, what, came to mind when you said that about, the afternoon shopping was to me, it's not so much, well, that's not true. Okay. I'm just trying to think how I want to say this. If the stress of parenting is too much, and we don't choose to see parenting as an experiment that we will continue to learn from as we try this and this and this over time, but it's an expectation that I'm doing it right or wrong, we will find things, whatever those things are, to help us cope. Shopping, drinking, exercising, reading, working. Like, I think we can put our energy into things that actually do make us feel better in the short term. But if we're not consciously, intentionally choosing to learn from being a parent and to, again, see it as something that we build skill around, all of those things can just be things we escape into,
Yeah.
right? Because maybe we're like, oh, drinking that glass of wine was really helpful. So then maybe I have 3 or 4 or 5, right? Or maybe, I feel more competent at work. So I'm just going to work more because I don't feel so competent as a parent. That is too stressful for me. And so for me, anything can become an escape. So for me, it is looking for what am I learning in this process, not to not take a break. And by recognizing that as a short-term solution, am I working on a long-term solution?
Yeah.
Or am I always just doing a short-term solution? And so for me, building competency, reducing our stress over time in regards to parenting is knowing that it is a very intentional process where I'm incorporating both short-term relief and long-term relief.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are you
Yes.
thinking when I...
What I'm thinking is that after doing divorce work as a lawyer for so many years and custody fights,
Sure.
what I always wanted to say was sit down and let's have a talk. When you make decisions, make whatever decision is in the best interest of your child, not necessarily you.
Yeah. Do you think that people know how to do that? Make a decision in the best interest of their child.
And do I think people know how to do it? Not very many.
Yeah.
But
Why-
it's a good perspective to have.
It is a good perspective to have. The reason I don't think it happens very often, because I think we are taught to not take our child's perspective into account. Or we do the opposite. We take their perspective into account all the time because, again, that's like a reactive parenting, right? And so we're not doing any of the long-term work, right? We're doing the short-term work. And so I think it's difficult because even if we're taking the child's perspective into account all the time, that's not really in the child's best interest.
Yeah, the word perspective is a huge difference between the two.
Right.
You still have to be a leader.
Right. And how do we become a leader? Practice.
Practice and work on ourselves.
We do. It is. We don't want it to be that. I think we just, we continue to look for the simple solution. But any part of our life isn't simple. It requires effort and learning. It's skill building, practice, experiment.
Yeah. And do your best. And don't beat yourself up constantly. The stress of parenting. I mean, what a crazy experience it is. And there's so much that's wrapped up around it. Just so much, so many layers.
Identity. Whew.
And, even now, even in this conversation, there were regrets that came up. And I know better than that. It's done. But do I want to do it better when grandchildren come along? Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's a lot easier too, but it's still important to have the same perspectives of what we've been talking about, right?
Long term, short term. Yeah. How is this going to impact them short term and long term?
Yeah. And when we mess up, because it is an experiment, let it go as best you can. Just let it go and do your best.
Yeah, I would say you have said in other episodes, and I will try again tomorrow.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And to me, the try means effort, not just tomorrow is another day. To do the same non-intentional parenting.
Yeah.
But I will learn, again, even if it's 10 minutes on a car ride somewhere, listening to somebody else's perspective,
Yeah.
that's a lot of time that accumulates that we can take in other perspectives that can teach us.
Yeah. Audible's an amazing thing.
Audible
Or
is an
YouTube
amazing
podcasts.
thing. YouTube podcasts, yeah, whatever, any podcast, right? Whatever the platform, and not just one. It's one of the things where, we recommend a lot of other resources, not just ours. We know that having multiple perspectives is helpful. I mean, I love learning from other people.
Yeah, and nobody has all the answers for
Nobody has
you.
all the answers for you.
Right.
Right.
And so you have to try on a bunch of different things to figure out what works for you and
your family. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for the conversation, babe.
And thank you too. Appreciate the insights.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And look forward to the adult children parenting conversations that we'll be having later this year. Yeah. Yeah. They're important, deep, a lot that we carry around about our parents. Yeah. Looking for more freedom for all of us.
Yeah. Curious about our children too.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Always room for growth both ways, right?
Yes. Always. All levels of relationship.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you too. If you've been wishing for deeper trust and authenticity in your relationships, looking for better communication skills with your partner, we hope that you'll join us for our latest course, 10 Essential Skills to Building Stronger and Healthier Relationships.
Yeah. Everything that Walker and I do is something that we put energy into, creating it thoughtfully and intentionally. We're very curious about what might be most helpful for people in building healthier skills in a relationship. We recognize it's something that we all need to practice time and time again, and know that we're not just talking about intimate partners in this course. We're talking about family, coworkers, friends. We really want to walk through this process of building healthier relationship in all areas of our life. And we hope that you consider joining us. Enrollment opens February 1st, launching March 20th, first day of spring, and the first day of our retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see you there.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to explore life with you. We encourage curiosity, self-growth, and we strive to be more compassionate every day.